As a wise man once said, courage is the first of human qualities because it is the quality that guarantees all others. That wise man was Neil Breen. We just watched his 2023 movie, Cade, The Tortured Crossing. I'm Thomas Delza, and I am joined here with
Isaiah,
Jordan,
Jaden,
Addie.
And we're going to be talking much more about this dumpster fire of a movie right after the intro. Welcome back. As I mentioned before the intro, today we watch Neil Breen's Cade, Tortured Crossing. I am very curious to get all of your thoughts because I have so many and so little all at the same time.
well, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with this movie, and I feel like it really does tackle kind of a theme of, hospital care, mental health, and kind of the human instincts that really shape our everyday lives. Especially, I really like the imagery of the ankles and the heels. I think it really plays back into kind of like Achilles' heel and how that's kind of the weakness of, both Cade and Cale.
Cale, yes.
Cale, yeah. I really felt like that kind of brotherly tie was really impactful. And, that ending scene, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's emotional, and I was there in the scene, and yeah, I got to stop there. There's too many thoughts.
Jordan, what were your thoughts?
I'm totally with you, Isaiah. I mean, it really got me. That last scene was just so touching. I feel like just the whole meaning of this movie is just, it's such a deep concept that I don't know if we can get to it today, but it's, wow, I'm touched. I'm genuinely just touched by it.
So true. Jaden?
I didn't know what we were watching, and I don't know if I can handle talking about this movie. This movie had many things going on, all so serious.
I just feel like he was so spontaneous with like a lot of the stuff that he did. And I mean, you just never really expected what was going to happen. And I can really, I like that about him. You know what I mean? Like, I think he really like made it work in a weird cinema way. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah.
Now, as students who are taught to appreciate film and taught to understand film, one of the practices that we are taught when pitching a film is to write something called a log line. I have written up a log line of what I think this film is about. A needy man with bad ankles steals blood from his twin brother's hospital, who is secretly the leader of a league of vigilantes. Now, if that doesn't sum up this movie in a perfect sense, or at least what I could tell was happening in it, there are many intricate plot threads, and I don't think, as you stated, I don't think we'll have time to delve into all of them, because frankly, this movie is just too deep for us to understand. And I think that this is the surface value way of getting people into this truly cinematic universe that we have stumbled upon with the Cade movies.
Yeah, I mean, the Neilverse is really just a web of different threads that kind of go out. And, without really seeing his full cinematography, not cinematography, but his full film listings, the word is blanking me. I feel like it's hard to understand this one. And, I really feel like I need to go back, start from the beginning, and really work my way up, because I'm sure there's plenty of subtext I'm missing, especially within the dialogue. There's many scenes where characters were not speaking, but their lips were moving. And I thought that was very interesting. It kind of reminds me of in Harry Potter, where there's that scene where he's screaming, and it's the most impactful part of that series for me, and nothing is said. And, I really feel like he calls back to some of the great cinematic masterpieces in history. And I think it's touching, and it shows that he's really he's influenced by a lot, but he's also an innovator in a sense on these kind of previous movies that he's looking into.
True.
Yeah. I wish that we could truly understand what he means. This movie just has so much going on. And guys, the cinematography of this film is like no other. The green screen, the graphics, the effects, 10 out of 10.
The tiger.
The tiger. How can
Where
talk
would
about
we
the tiger
be?
woman?
Oh my
Where would
gosh.
we be without the tiger woman?
And those legs.
Those.
Those legs.
Those legs.
Frankly,
Wow.
I think that the tiger that we saw is an analogy for religion. In the way that we see Neil initially fights with the concept of the tiger, but then shortly thereafter, in an immense struggle, he offers instead forgiveness to the tiger, upon which it blossoms and turns into a beautiful woman, one of which he may or may not be married to. We're unsure of this at this time. This tiger is something that we see throughout the film, something that is never fully in the full frame except for the initial conflict, only being in the background to support these arguments that we see. And truly, I think that this is a perfect description of the way that this movie operates on these deep, complex emotions and evolves into something higher than art itself.
Well, I think especially with the tiger, it really plays into kind of the gene editing, which kind of goes into the topic of nature versus nurture, you know. This tiger who, by all instinctual and primal need, should be killing, you know, Cade in this scene, yet they're able to overcome those initial kind of primal urges and become human. And I think that symbolizes what it means to be human, which is forgiveness and understanding. And you know, with the character of Cale and the gene editing, he's trying to force, you know, change in humanity in a way that is unnatural. And I think it gives kind of the message of kind of remaining true to your true self and kind of leaning back into your humanity at all times. So it's really a beautiful message, I think, at the end. And Neil Breen, you know, he knows exactly what he's doing with the imagery, the dialogue, the symbols that he includes in this movie. I don't know. I think it's touching, to say the least.
Absolutely, Isaiah. Do you have any thoughts on this, Addie?
You know, kind of like what you were talking about with just like mental health and stuff like that. And I think that it really paints a really good picture on like how people should view life, you know? Like, I mean, and what I mean by that is Neil Breen is almost like a hero, you know? Almost like, not, I wouldn't say savior, but like almost like just this magnificent hero.
Someone to look up to.
Yeah, exactly. Someone to look up to at all times. And I think that that's really important, you know, in every situation, even at a like abandoned mental hospital, you know.
Now, today we offer a unique perspective from our control room here at KMOS Broadcast Studios, where we have Leilani talking about I Can't Quite Tell What That Says.
Tell us what you really think.
Tell us what we really think. Now, this movie is not very good. I think
It's really not.
the concept of continuity, which is something that is generally used to keep time and space continuous throughout a film, especially when you're shooting things out of sequence, as many films are, it is very important to keep continuity so that the audience feels involved in the movie. They feel engaged in the movie. They feel like they have a true understanding and they feel surrounded by the feeling of the movie. This movie doesn't do that. This movie throws continuity to the wind. And frankly, this movie doesn't really know what's going on at any given point in time, much like my viewing experience.
I think that's the main issue, is that it's not even a bad movie because the plot does make sense. There's just no plot there to decipher. And, you know, even with like bad movies like The Room, there's at least dialogue you can hear, there's things happening, there is conflict. And as I'm watching this, I can't even get anything out of it. It's just kind of a series of scenes that loop. So you get, once you've seen like the trailer, imagine the trailer looped 50 times. You're not getting anything new out of it. There's there's no comedy after a while of, you know, it's just kind of, it just kind of is brain rotting after a while. And like halfway through the movie, I'm like, okay, I'm getting pretty sick of this. Like, it kind of loses its charm at a certain point because it just reuses so much that it's like, okay, I'm not gonna laugh at this scene because I've just saw it 50 times. And for me, that's the worst thing, is that it fails to even be a bad movie.
Yeah.
Because bad movies can
Yeah.
be enjoyable, but they have a charm to them.
Yeah.
What was
It's-
weird to me, oh sorry,
No, continue.
was when the characters kept switching.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the same like 6 actors were in every single part
Yeah.
throughout the entire movie. And
Yeah.
like continuity, once again, keep it consistent.
Yes. Yeah. You gotta make, and I think that's really weird as well, is like, in college, we've been taught that like when you shoot a scene, you do not shoot it from like, when the person walks in, you do not keep it till when they like walk out, you know what I mean? Like you gotta like edit it kind of down, and I'm afraid that if he didn't use like multiple things at the same time and just kept using it, then it wouldn't be an hour and 30 minutes, you know, kind of thing.
Did
But-
it need to be?
Yeah, right.
It just kind of happened that don't really have any kind of lead-in or explanation. I'm convinced that Neil Breen in this movie is actually like a representation of some kind of like omnipotent being. Because the number of scenes where he'll just appear randomly in like a doorway and walk into a scene, completely unrelated, like it doesn't show how he got here. There's no
Yeah.
reason for him to be here. Every single time we see him walking in, he walks like a synth. I'm not even sure this dude's real. And every single time when he walks in, I'm like, he's just here now. It's not like, oh, I need to go to the shop, and then the next scene is at the shop. It's like, we need you here right now, and then in the next scene, he's just there.
Yeah, I'm actually convinced he might be a lizard person.
I'm not entirely
I
convinced
really
he is
don't
not.
think he's human, because again, it even like Dr. Graves, shout out. I feel he even said it's like he actually has never seen a movie before, and it just is like, I mean, I know people who don't watch movies and could make just from start to finish just a whole better movie. Like, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it really feels like if an alien came to Earth for one day
Yeah.
and
really
heard
does.
about movies and was like, I could do that. And just went with
Yeah.
it, but didn't really understand what it was. And I don't know, I feel like with the lack of actors as well really affects this movie. Because first off, Neil plays another character and another character. He plays 3 separate characters.
Who is the third character? I know he
the
plays...
judge,
That's
Kale,
right.
and Cade.
Is the judge supposed to be a separate character?
I took it as that is like an American
I thought he was
judge.
just speaking.
speaking.
Yeah, like
okay.
on half of it and doing like the same exact speech, talking about
Yeah.
like,
I
oh
guess
yes,
so, yeah.
this is an insane asylum.
But
And-
like people don't go up to like the judges.
No, you're
That's
right.
why I
You're
took it.
right.
I guess I'm using too much logic. That
That's what I'm
probably
saying.
is the same person.
yeah.
We
I
have
was trying to
another-
not think about that.
We have another informational piece from our control room. Who is our favorite warrior?
Oh.
So throughout the movie, there are what he calls winged warriors, which is this group of patients from a mental hospital who he trains in the ways of martial arts to beat up ninjas who were sent after him by some unknown corporation for doing, I think, genetic modification. I think that's the reason they're after him. It's not too clear.
Maybe.
And there's one in particular that I think is the fan favorite, which is Keyboard Guy. No idea what
yeah.
he's actually called
Oh, yeah.
in the cast list. However, Keyboard Guy shows up a number of times, learning how to play keyboard, and slowly but surely gaining that confidence and learning how to play the keyboard, so much so that everyone in the mental hospital, including those who may or may not be alive, I think they were ghosts, as Nolan stated, they looked like the victims of Pompeii, who were having a dance party in the courtyard.
Honestly, one of the most endearing things about the movie, which there's not a lot, but I feel like those patients played their parts. They really
did.
did try, in my opinion,
They did.
they're working with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And they make at least a little bit of a captivating performance. Like that was the only, like Piano Man is one of the only characters you can watch and be like, okay, this
Yeah.
is
Oh,
a
yeah.
somewhat enjoyable
trying.
scene.
Yeah.
Like some of them were performing. They
Yeah.
were, I was watching it, I was like, okay, I can get
Yeah.
the sense that these are characters. Versus like Neil, like he's just,
Yeah.
he is himself. I can't separate the actor from the man, the myth. They're together.
They are. I
We
think
have another
something-
shot from our control room, getting some reactions from them. This was truly a life-changing movie for all of the people who were on set today, because I don't think, this isn't the first Neil Breen movie I have seen. This is not the first Neil Breen movie that Jordan has seen. I believe
It
that
is,
Isaiah has
yeah.
seen. Have you either of you seen
I
other
have
Neil Breen
seen.
movies?
I have
This is
seen.
my
the-
Yes,
third.
we've seen the same one, yes. Neil Breen movies are something that are not watched. They're not something that are experiences. They are something that are endured. And this has been the hardest one to endure so far.
Yeah.
Some of his other ones that I've seen, they were shot on physical sets, and I think that aspect helped a lot because even if the acting was terrible and you had no idea what was going on in the scene, you could look around at the environment that these
Yeah.
actors were set up on, and there was
Yeah.
at least something to attach to. Another movie, Fateful Findings, in which Neil Breen's character has like 7 laptops at his desk all at the same time that he's working on. Something that it doesn't need to be there, but it gives him character. And that's something
Yeah.
that I don't feel like this movie does a very good job of.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there was like one shot where it was actually on a physically real place. And I'm like, I think that's the only shot in the entire movie. And I felt like it was just unethical of Neil to push out this movie. And it's honestly kind of just lazy. And it makes me lose a little bit of respect because I have seen some of his other stuff, at least just clips of it. And I can at least, respect putting a little bit of effort, trying to get shots that you are working with, just locally. But this is just lazy. This is just him pushing something out, in my opinion, because he has that name, and people will joke by his movies. But there's no passion in this, in my opinion. You can't hear any of the dialogue half the time. It's all CGI. It's all on a green screen. And to me, that hurts,
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, at least movies like The Room, it feels like there's a little bit of passion in there. Like they are trying to make a movie because it seems like they like making movies, even if they're objectively not great. This just felt like someone was forced to make a movie, and they were just putting zero effort, just push it off to the editor guy who, he shows up. Yeah, that was like one of the funniest scenes to me. I love that. And he was just like, it felt like he was just throwing it to other people and was like, make it work.
We
Yeah.
were begging for the credits.
Yeah.
Begging.
Yeah. I was just like, when is
Begging,
that happening?
Because this movie just kept going on and on, but nothing was happening. Nothing ever happened. What was this movie?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
like
know.
in at least what was it? Frightful Findings? Is that what it was called?
Fateful Findings.
Fateful Findings. Like he did a lot more like on what is it called? Like on location. And yeah, now that he's like basically had like the green screen, it's like he wanted to use more of the green screen, which is great.
He was obsessed.
But it's like, yeah, it got to a point where it's like he's only using the green screen and not really using any. I actually don't know if he. I think one time in a very short scene used like an on
location.
Yeah, on location scene, like or shot.
Had a real background
Yeah,
that was in the same
nothing
physical
else.
space as the actor.
Nothing else. That had been the only one. And so because he was only focused on the green screen, I know that the script normally isn't really great, but like this one really lacked because it's like he would say, the same thing over and over again. Not him. Normally just like the other people, but that they would just be like, oh yeah, I really just want this because it's for me. I really, really want this because it's for me. It's like, we heard you the first time. Like, you don't have to say it again.
There's a lot of saying lines and repeating them.
Yes, over and over again.
And I'd like to return to a point that Isaiah made that I can't fully take credit for what I'm about to say next because it's actually I'm going to have to credit to Nolan, who pointed out that something like this can't be AI generated. I think it's an interesting to bring up because a lot of media that's bad these days is like, oh, this is probably AI generated.
Yeah.
Something like this couldn't have been AI generated because, as Nolan pointed out, there's a bell curve to AI where it's really good at being very mediocre. Original ideas can't come out of AI. AI can only observe what already exists.
True. Yeah.
The same thing exists with bad media, because even an artificial intelligence knows that this is not how you make a movie, and yet this is still what Neil Breen decided to do.
Yeah.
I have one more quote for you all today, another quote from Neil Breen himself that's actually a quote from Winston Churchill. "This is no time for ease and comfort. It is time to dare and endure." Thank you all for joining us today on the Cinema Sit Down. This is going to be our last episode of the season. Oh, I am so sorry. We have not rated the film yet.
0.
11 out of 10 from our control room.
Wow.
They
getting
are very
redacted.
high-spirited
That is
today.
getting
Listen,
redacted.
Interesting.
Neil.
Go ahead. Say it again.
No, 0.00. Yeah, no.
0, really.
If there was any bit of passion I would have given at least like a 4. Like genuinely, I would have given a 4 to like some of his other movies because they're at least somewhat enjoyable. This was terrible. This was like a slideshow, like a 1 hour 30-minute slideshow. It was that bad.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree, a 0. Also, we keep talking about that one shot on location that is from the prequel. It's just a scene from
Gotcha.
the prequel that
So
he
he
just
just reused
brought over
it
and
again.
reused it, but a 0.
Now, I think that a 0 is an apt rating. However, I'm going to give half a point of credit, not to Neil Breen, not to the film itself, but to the editor of the movie who managed to pull off a pan shot in stock footage of silhouetted businessmen looking at the stock market graphs.
It's actually kind of
That then had some silhouettes start to move and walked out of that darkness into light. And I thought that was a very cool effect. So they get half a point of credit specifically for the editor, whose name I do not remember, but he's also the guy who's drunk driving in the first like 20 minutes of the movie.
Oh, I forgot about
Can't forget
him.
Driver.
Oh, you never see him again.
I'm gonna give it a 2 because we all laughed. We had a good time watching it.
Did we?
We were laughing.
Okay.
It was good, ish. So I give it a 2.
You know, you guys are probably not gonna like my answer, but I give it at least like a 4. And the reason why is because, like, now, has he never really seen a movie in his life? Probably not. But I think that's why it's so bad. It's so bad that it's good to me. I literally will start quoting this, and I quote the other one to my sister all the time. She has no idea what I'm talking about, but, like, I quote that all the time because it's so ridiculous that it's like, once I found out we were gonna watch this, I was like, yes, because it was just so bad. But now it's like an inside joke
Let's make this a fair
thing.
fight.
Yeah.
That's my favorite line. I will.
Let's make this a fair fight. I love it. Just
Well,
duplicates. I love it.
Thank you so much for watching our final episode of Cinema Sit Down for this season. We will be back next fall with even more movies to watch, most of which will almost certainly be better than this one. This is also going to be my final time on the show as I am graduating this Saturday. Thank you all very much for having me. It has been an absolute blast. At this point, we're going to go ahead and sign off for the season. So we'll see you in the fall. Thanks for watching. Check out our other content and enjoy this mannequin with very freaky eyes that we've got. Also, a special thank you to everyone in the control room and everyone behind the cameras today. They have done an absolutely amazing job. And yeah, like, subscribe, whatever you do on YouTube videos these days. I don't know, what are the kids doing?
Smash that like button.
Yeah, that. All right,
Smash it.
see you around.